Yeah, exactly. Well, that guy didn't want to be in Scientology. The guy who said that.
He did. So is he gone? He's blown out of there?
I don't know, but he hasn't been very active, and no one's heard or seen of him in a long time. But he would be a great person to come out and say, you know, hey, Jason, you're totally right. It's a total crock. Because he's the one that says that in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not irony right there, I don't know what is. Here's another question, and then we can go back to some of the things we've talked about. So you know who Graham Barry is, obviously. He came out with there was a document that came out recently that targeted Tom Cruise and David Miscavige, and in that document he mentioned that Scientology membership is down 50% and income's down 50%. What do you think? Do you think that's speculation, or do you think there's some validity to that statement?
I think that's 100% valid. I know that since the release of this major program that Dave Miscavige spearheaded, the Golden Age of Tech, since that program was launched by David Miscavige, Scientology statistics internationally have been going down, down, down. And it was a huge problem in the mid-90s. And he considered it basically the staff making him wrong, quote unquote, by not doing what he said to do and misimplementing the program so that it actually drove people out of the organizations and the facilities. And when I left in 2005, before I left, I actually toured to several of the brand new Church of Scientology facilities in New York, San Francisco, Northern California, Los Angeles. I went to several of these brand new facilities that had just been renovated and newly built, and every single one that I went to was completely empty, like nobody in it. It was like a ghost town.
There's a good question in the on the chat room, and it's actually something I'm familiar with because I live here in Cleveland, and there's a Columbus org which they're building, which is called the Ideal Org, and they're putting in all kinds of money. And it seems to be that's something that they're doing a lot of, is putting money in real estate. What is that strategy, and why are they building all these orgs when they're clearly losing members left and right? I mean, you know it, I know it, they know it, but they're not going to say it. What do you think that strategy is about? Is it that how they're going to fund themselves in the future by, selling off real estate, or is it just a show, a veneer to make it seem like things are going well?
I think it's more of that than anything else. I think that Dave is basically saying, hey, look what we've got. We're building these islands of sanity, quote unquote, all around the world, and that's really all they have to talk about at their little events that they do. And it's really just a talking point and something that they can show off. But when you go to these places, they're empty. So it's not, and I think it's even starting to become kind of a thing, like the Scientologists even know they're empty. And it's losing its whole spin right now. And yeah, I don't really understand the whole real estate aspect of it. I mean, obviously they'd have that to fall back on, but for the most part, in over the last 4 or 5 years, the majority of that funding for those new buildings is coming from high-profile donations from the Nancy Cartwrights and the Tom Cruises of the world, and that's where they're getting the money to do those things. So the parishioners themselves have dried up as an income source because they've basically been milking them for 20 or 30 years. These people, and it's like, hey, come on, I've already given you $5 million. I'm done. So they're getting a lot of their money from these A-list celebs, and yeah, they're setting up these new buildings, and there's nobody in them. I don't think any Church of Scientology anywhere in the world, except for the one in Clearwater, is actually turning a profit. That's what I mean. When I was there in 2005, that was the case. The organization called Flag, or the Flag land base in Clearwater, was the only place that was actually providing income and supporting international management and actually paying for things to be done. All the rest of the other churches were, just getting by. They weren't able to pay their staff, and they're basically in this new building, and even in Buffalo, they built a brand new building, and the people that are in charge of getting people into the org to do services are out in their cars with the heat on because the org has no gas and it's freezing inside the org. So they're calling parishioners from their cell phones in their cars with the heat on. This is an organization that was just recently built from the ground up, and that's the state that they're in. So I definitely think that they're absolutely losing people, losing money, and they are in the downward spiral.
And they are in a downward spiral, although the Columbus org, I'm being told in the chat room, they got some of their money from local donations, but it sounds like the way they did it was very sneaky, and sort of, from what I've read about that, they sort of tricked people into donating money. I just can't imagine, with all the negative publicity about Scientology, it's stemming from Tom Cruise, really. I mean, his own batshit crazy attitude, I think, has had a lot to do with driving people away, or at least making them look at it askance. It is amazing that they have anybody donating, to the org itself. So I want to talk about some of the things that Jenna and Astor talked about last night, which I know you know intimately, not maybe perhaps on a personal basis, but having been in the Sea Org. What is it about this forced abortion thing for Sea Org members? I've heard rumors of it, but is that true?
Well, I mean, at the INT base, I know of several female staff members there that were absolutely pressured into having abortions. I mean, I know one girl who had 4 abortions in a 5-year period. And when somebody goes to the eye doctor or goes to see a physician or anything, any medical thing, they're usually driven by one of the medical liaison office staff members. And so when these girls are going off to get abortions, they're going to the Planned Parenthood facility in Hemet, and they're going with a carload of girls. And it even got so bad that the Planned Parenthood place was like, what the hell is happening? This is just not right. We're seeing girls come in here every week, and not only that, sometimes we're seeing the same girls back again months later. And they actually had to go to different Planned Parenthood centers all over the Inland Empire because they were creating a public relations situation by doing so many, having so many abortions performed on these church staff members. So it really is a thing where if you basically don't get an abortion, then you're basically saying, I don't want to be here, because you know that if you don't get the abortion, you have to leave. So, I mean...
So it's not an official policy, it's an unstated rule. And yet
no,
one
it's
of their
official policy that you cannot have kids while you're at the int-base property. That is an official rule. There are no kids allowed, period. If you do have a child, then you get sent to some other facility where you're no longer in the Sea Org, and you become a staff member. And I think the last person that actually did that was in 1992. There was actually a girl who got pregnant and just held her ground and said, I'm having the baby. And I can't remember any other females from 1992 forward at the INT base that actually didn't get an abortion and had their baby. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of abortions, not just 10 or 20. We're talking every week girls going to the Planned Parenthood Center getting abortions. I mean, is
there any way we can investigate that particular, scenario? Because I would think
that's the thing with everything at the INT base. Okay, that's the thing with the beatings. That's the thing with the abortions. That's the thing with people being held there against their will. If you go there today and go up there and say, hey, are you being held here against your will? They're going to say, no, I love it here. It's a paradise.
Right.